Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at the House of Swing, Jazz at Lincoln Center, here in the heart of Columbus Circle, here in New York City. Blessing the band stage with an unprecedented 8 sold-out performances here at Jazz at Lincoln Center is bassist, composer, and educator Buster Williams. In a career spanning some 6 decades, Buster has recorded and toured with the likes of Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt, as well as Nancy Wilson and Sarah Vaughan, and Herbie Hancock, just to name the many endless few. In this interview, Buster candidly sits down and reflects on one of his dear friends, the great Albert Tootie Heath. Tonight, you're going to see highlights of Buster performing with his ensemble, Something More, featuring the great Lenny White on drums, as well as Steve Wilson on soprano and alto saxophone, and George Colligan on piano. We also sit down and talk about the next generation of musicians that he's teaching at the New School here in New York City, as well as reflect on one of his mentors, pianist Sam Dockery, who is one of the legendary messengers of Art Blakey's ensemble. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights and remembering the great Albert Tootie Heath with Buster Williams performing with his ensemble Something More live here at Disney's, here at Jazz at Lincoln Center, here in New York City. Buster, it's an honor to just sit down with you as always. Thank you for taking the time. I want to start this interview off. Last week we lost a very important stalwart in the music of jazz, Black American music. And I know the Heath brothers are very dear to you because when you were growing up in Camden by way of Philly, the Heath brothers were kind of the foray into how you started playing this music. Tell me the first time you met Albert, and also tell me how the other brothers crept into your trajectory playing this music.
Well, let me tell you how I first met Jimmy. And I started playing with Jimmy, Tootie's brother, of course. I had a gig at Spider Kelly's in Philly with Sam Reed. And I wanted to, my entrance to Philadelphia was actually Sam Reed. I lived in Camden across the bridge. And the week after we played Spider Kelly's, we did a thing at some hall called 7-Eleven. And there was a thing where, you know, the people brought their own setups. And they had their tables, and then they bought their, they bought their whiskey. And then they had the setups from the hall, you know, ice and all the stuff on the table. And the two bands was Sam Reed's band and Jimmy Heath's band. And I wanted to work with Jimmy Heath. So I wanted him to get to hear me. And so this is perfect. So we were playing the Sam Reed's band, and Jimmy Heath was behind the curtain. And I saw him, you know, stick his head out of the curtain, and he was listening to me, you know. And I said, yeah, this is it, I got him. And when we finished that gig, 3 days later, he called me to join his band. So, and we was playing at the club called the Sahara all the time. Jimmy was working busy every week in Philly, so I was working in Philly every week. And but I hadn't met Tootie yet. So this was in like 1959. And
how old were you at that time?
Well, I graduated high school in 1960.
Okay.
So I guess I was 16.
16, okay.
So, and while I was working with Jimmy Heath, I graduated in 1960 from high school. And that summer, I got a call to work with Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt at the Showboat in Philadelphia. So I went from Jimmy Heath to Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt. And so I did them 60, 61, 62. And then anyway, in 1965, I was with Nancy Wilson.
Right.
And we were playing somewhere in Philadelphia. And now I think this is when I first met Tootie. I remember we were playing somewhere, and word started going around, Tootie Heath is in the house. And Tootie was like he was like a myth, you know, and like somebody that, I mean, he was the hit of the town, you know. And so everybody wanted to meet Tootie and play with Tootie. And Tootie was slim and sharp, you know. I remember he came into the dressing room and he had on this this dark blue suit and white shirt and tie, and he had this big smile, you know. And I thought he was just the dappest guy, man. And that's when I first met Tootie. Now, I'm not sure what year that was. It was 1964 or 1965. But as I remember it, that's the first time I met Tootie. Now, when the first time I got to play with Tootie, I don't really remember.
Was it Herbie Hancock's?
No, I had played with him before that.
Okay.
I had played with him before that. But in 1969, that's when Herbie Hancock formed his band. And I was in that band. And the drummer was, damn, I forget his name. But anyway, this drummer played, we did the Vanguard for a week. And when we finished the Vanguard, we were going out on the road. And the drummer couldn't do it, so Herbie called Tootie Heath. So that began a long stint of playing with Tootie. And I loved playing with him, man. He had that, you know, he had a great ride beat, you know, his ride cymbal. And of course, Tootie was one of the funniest guys you ever want to meet.
That's right.
You know, but see, you know, before Tootie, my good buddy was Mickey Roker. And Mickey Roker was just a comedian, man. He played his butt off and he kept you laughing. Make my face hurt, you know? And then the time spent with Tootie, he did the same thing. Just kept my face hurting, man. I'm laughing so much, you know. And then I remember, you know. So then, when you were Tootie and Jimmy, I mean, the laughing is non-stop. But then I was with Tootie, Jimmy, and Percy. And, you know, you would think Percy was the aristocrat, you know, no, but Percy was the ringleader. He was the ringleader, man. So anyway, I love those guys, man. You know, and when Tootie passed a few days ago, it was a sad moment. But then when we had that earthquake 2 days ago,
yeah,
you know, I said, that's Tootie.
Yeah, he's laughing.
Yeah, Tootie,
He's laughing.
Tootie ain't going out of here, you know, without making a noise.
Right.
You know, so yeah.
There are a couple of records that you guys, and I did a little research. I know that The Prisoner was the record. In fact, Herbie recorded one of your compositions.
Yeah, Firewater.
And then you did Fat Albert Rotunda, and that was the beginning of the different change for Herbie. What was it that Albert brought to Herbie's ensemble that was different than all of the other drummers that he could have chosen from?
Well, I mean, I don't know about all of the different drummers that he could have chosen from. I just know that Tootie brought his uniqueness, you know, to it. Tootie had a humor, you know, in his playing, and, you know, this music requires a sense of humor. You know, you can't be stoic and, you know, Mr. Straight Up and Down and really give this music the kind of justice that it deserves, because you have to be a daring kind of fellow or a daring kind of person, you know. And Tootie was that. The way he lived was the way he played. You know, when we, you know, the time we spent on the road in the daytime, you know, was the same kind of spirit we spent in the evening on the bandstand, you know, and you know, and that Fat Albert Rotunda album, Tootie's on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear it, and you know, but playing night after night with Tootie was just a beautiful experience because every night was different.
Right.
Every night was different, you know, and he'd have that same look on his face that he had all day long, you know, big smile. He was a special person, man. Very special person.
Buster, when you're playing now, are there things that you're finding out about the bass and notes or things or how you compose Is it different now as opposed to when you were trying to figure it out when you first started? Or are you still figuring it out?
I'm still trying to figure it out, man. You know, it never ends. And when you say different, it's like saying, well, is today different from yesterday? Yes, it is. But yesterday created today. And so it's been like, now I started playing, I guess when I was 13 years old. And in a couple of weeks I'll be 82. So that's a long time, you know? And when I look at it that way, you know, it's easy for me to say, damn, I should be playing a whole lot better than I am. So when you say different, I'll say this. I feel that I'm making a new beginning. A new beginning, because I'm not ready to quit. I'm not ready to be done. And it's too exciting and rewarding to feel any way other than, you know, it's a new day. It's a new day. And that's my big inspiration. It's like, okay, let's begin anew. You know, because I want to accomplish all of the things and all of the possibilities that, you know, I missed because of youth. You know, like Frank Sinatra said, you know, something is wasted on the young. You know, the second time around. Well, I might look at it that way, you know, but one thing for sure, I don't want to leave this world and not have accomplished every single thing that I could accomplish in this lifetime. And fortunately, you know, I'm assured because of my beliefs that, you know, I'll never be done. Because this lifetime is only this lifetime.
That's right.
It's going to continue into the next one. I love what Wayne Shorter said, you know, when he knew that he was going to be gone. He said, well, it's time to go and get a new body so I can come back and continue my mission. And, you know, that says it all. And I'm not thinking about leaving. I'm thinking about this new beginning. That's right here, today, this moment. You know? So, that puts a smile on my face.
Right. I mean, and two, you look like, because the last time we sat down, we were at the Blue Note, and it was Nick Payton, you and Lenny White, and I vividly remember we were upstairs, and you were telling a story about Sonny Stitt and Gene Ammons. Mm-hmm. And as you're telling this story, Buster, inside I'm kind of somber because my grandfather, God rest his soul, he was a huge Gene Ammons fan and Sonny Stitt fan. And Brother Jug and the Jug is back, he had those records. And I know he's upstairs smiling because my grandfather also loved the blues, but there was something about how Gene Ammons played. He played a ballad very differently than anybody I've ever heard played. What were some magic moments, or what are some things that you learned from Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt on the band stage?
Well, let's start with the way he played a ballad. I never forget, we were in Kansas City, and he played My Romance every night. And the ladies would go crazy when he played this ballad. And this one night, you know, this lady threw up her hands and she said, "Bless you, Jazz." She said, "Bless you." And I mean, I really, you know, I learned the real significance of a ballad from playing with people like Gene Ammons, Betty Carter, Shirley Horn, Sarah Vaughan. And to this day, I mean, ballads are my favorites. I love ballads, man. And you know, when I was with Gene Ammons, he had just had this hit, Canadian Sunset.
Yeah.
And that was a big hit for him. So we worked all the time. And
now this is the time, because Gene was incarcerated. When he came out, he made these very important records, and he was very busy up to the time he got out, right up until he died.
Well, he went in. He was incarcerated again after I was with Gene Ammons.
Really?
Yeah. We were playing. We were playing Kansas City. I had been with the band. We had been with the band about 2 years. And we played 2 weeks in this club. And after the first week, Gene Ammons called us to his room. We had a band meeting. And he told us some kind of story that, you know, we were going to get paid the next week. So, you know, and we, you know, in those days we all paid our own hotel bills. So everybody had expenses, you know, but we agreed. And every night there was this real slimy kind of guy hanging at the club. And at the end of the night, Gene Ammons and this guy would drive back to Chicago. And turns out, and then at the end of the second week, there was no money. So we were supposed to be going to Chicago and open up at this club called McKee's. We were going to play 16 weeks at this club. And so Sunday night, so the gig starts, no, Saturday night, and the gig starts on Monday. So we all agreed, okay, we'll juggle. You go to Chicago, get a draw. Because he had told us some story, man, how the money was all messed up. Of course, he had messed up the money.
Right.
But he was going to get a draw and wire us the money so we could come to Chicago. Monday night comes, and we ain't heard nothing from Jug. So we call the club, McKee's, and someone picks up the phone, and we hear Jug in the background playing, woo. You know, that sound was nobody else but Jug. And he couldn't come to the bandstand, so, but we knew, okay. So he then opened up, you know, the local rhythm section. And, you know, we're stranded. So that's a whole nother story. We got, I talk about this in my
documentary, right.
So we you know, but it turned out that this guy that was hanging out with Jug turned out to be an informant for the FBI. And when they got back to Chicago, he set Jug up. He got Jug to get some contraband, some drugs for somebody, for an FBI agent. Didn't. Anyway, they set him up, and he went to prison. And he went to prison for another 3 or 4 years.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So when he came out, that's when we did the album, The Jug Is Back.
Right.
We came out, and he called me. Hey, Junior called me JR. JR. come on, man, we're going in the studio. We're going to make this record. I said, okay. And we went in the studio and we made the record, The Jug Is Back. And shortly after that, he got cancer and he passed away. You know, but, you know, those were formative years for me, man, because when I went out with them, I had never been in a recording studio before. That was the first time I recorded. And that was the first time I did extensive touring like that. So I learned, you know, what to look out for, what not to do, you know. But Jug and Sonny Stitt, they treated me like I was their son. You know, no one could have treated me more respectfully and more reverently than them, you know. So I learned things from them that has served me throughout my whole career.
about Sam Dockery. He's another guy that's very important in your life. And Sam was a jazz messenger, and they always talk about the great piano players that came through, that institution. But Sam is like one of those unsung and slept on cats. And this is just my opinion. What was it about Sam that was very different than some of the other piano players that you had come across?
Sam was always studying. And Sam was always, first of all, Sam got up in the morning and put on a white shirt and a black tie and a suit every day. Every day. You never saw Sam without a suit and a tie. And he was very studious, and he had a really diligent routine, practice all day long. But he was always looking forward, always talking about, okay, man, someday I'm gonna go to New York, and because he never thought that he was ready. But Sam had a touch, and he had his stuff would flow, his harmonies were great, and he had gone out with Roy Haynes.
That's right.
And I don't know what it was, but his experiences on the road with Roy Haynes turned him sour towards the road. And he went back home, and he never left home again.
Was it the constant one-nighters? Was it the...
I don't know what it was. He never really talked about it. And I was over his house every day.
Wow.
Every day. His mother, man, she was so sweet. And there was Sam, and there was his brother Lem, who played drums, and he had another brother who had some mental problems. And so he had those two brothers. I think it was one more. And they stayed at home with his mother, until she passed. And but Sam, he was my mentor. He was my mentor. I'd come over to his house every day with my bass, and we'd play. He showed me all kind of stuff, man. And that's and that was also why I wanted to be with Jimmy Heath, because he was in Jimmy Heath's band.
So he played a lot locally in Philly.
Oh yeah, he was working all the time. He worked every night.
He was a staple, because paint a picture of Philadelphia in the late 50s and 60s.
In the late 50s and 60s, there wasn't a band. If there was a band in the United States that didn't have somebody in it from Philly, you had to tell me who it was. I mean, when Miles wanted to, needed a drummer, someone told him about Philly Joe. He got Philly Joe. And when Train and Benny Golson used to practice together every day. Train was, I think, 2 years older than Benny. And, but when Train first came to Philly, he joined Benny Golson for their jam sessions. Benny Golson had jam sessions at his house. Train would come over to Benny's house, and he'd have to play, and he was playing like Johnny Hodges then, because he started off playing alto.
Right.
And Benny's mother would be upset. She said, "Is that boy?" Yeah. He said, and then Train would say, "Yes, Miss Golson." And she said, "Play my song." And he had to play this Johnny Hodges song for Benny's mother.
But you also too, Buster, not to cut you off, we had Archie Shepp, you had Reggie Work, you had a lot of you had a lot of great jazz musicians in a span of like maybe 20 years. They were on some very important jazz records, and they were leading themselves as well.
Yeah.
That was a very intense time for that city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was a long span. It was a long span. In fact, I left home at the age of 17. But all of my experiences up to that point really centered around Philadelphia. And I mean, there was great musicians there. When I was with Jimmy Heath, Specs Wright, the great drummer, came out of prison and immediately joined Jimmy Heath's band. So, I mean, I've been really, truly, I had the greatest fortune, man, to have been nurtured by some of the greatest musicians in the world, and mentored and nurtured and taught, about life itself from these people. And so, your question was about all of the musicians, this era. And I say, and I say it again, all of the major bands had somebody from Philly.
Is jazz music in good hands right now? Are you seeing a lot of musicians, the younger generation, learning the music as well as the history and progressing on the bass? And what are you seeing? What are you noticing?
Well, I'm teaching at the New School, and I'm also teaching at the Manhattan School of Music. And each semester I have loads of bass players and constantly teaching. And the answer, in one way, is yes. I mean, there's lots of good bass players coming up. But every generation, I don't care how, how much technique or abilities you see, there's nothing that takes the place of the fact that we have to pass on what we know to them. It's like when I was with Herbie, our trombone player, Garnett Brown, wrote a tune called something about the golden tear, or something about the tear from a glass eye. I forget what it was. But and every day I go into class, and I'm really pleased by how these young students are growing, from week to week, day by day. You can see the growth, you can hear it, but there's always something else that they need. And unfortunately, I have students that have a seeking mind, and so as much as I teach them the ins and outs of the instrument, how to play the instrument, they want to know about life, and you can't play these instruments without your learning about life coinciding with your studies. So I have to say that the music is in good hands as long as these students don't lose their seeking mind. Because there's certain things, when you're young, man, you have a way of thinking what's important and what's not. And by and large, what they think is not important is what's most important.
What did you find out along the way? Each decade you were really playing with these stalwarts or these gatekeepers. What did you find most important as you were playing the music?
Well, the biggest deterrent is, thinking that you know what you don't know, and trying to judge or put in perspective, what's important for you to listen to from these older people and what's not. And usually, I think we all go through a period where you mistakenly, you really don't know shit from Shinola.
That's right.
So, growth, when you really look at it, it's all about a retrospective thing. You don't know what you missed until you done got away from it for a bit. Wow. And hopefully you come to your senses before it's too damn late. so that's been my experience, and that's why, you know, I'm so happy, you know, at the age of 82, I can have a perspective of, you know, start over. Let's do it again, you know, and do it with a little bit more wisdom.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at the House of Swing, Jazz and Lincoln Center, here in the heart of Columbus Circle, here in New York City. I'd like to personally dedicate as well as give my respect to Albert Tootie Heath. Also, I'd like to personally thank the legendary Buster Williams for his time. For more information on Buster's upcoming tour dates, as well as to order his music, visit him online at busterwilliams.com and follow him on social media by way of Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'd like to personally thank the staff and management here at Dizzy's as well as Jazz and Lincoln Center for the warm hospitality. People, I can't stress this more than enough. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and Vimeo and leave comments, as well as follow me on social media by way of Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Till next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.